Good evening. My name is Claude Steele. I'm the Lucy Stearns Professor Emeritus of Psychology here at Stanford, and it is my pleasure and great honor to welcome you to this celebration of the 25th anniversary of both the Center for Comparative Studies in Race and Ethnicity and the Research Institute for Comparative Study in Race and Ethnicity, RICSRE. I am very proud to have been involved in the founding of these centers and have served as a director at one time or another of both of them. Also, my late wife, Dorothy Steele, was the executive director of the center for a good number of years in the early 2000s. It was for us a family affair. And as important, CSRE has been a treasured source of colleagueship and intellectual stimulation and friendship in my time at Stanford since its inception. Importantly, this anniversary coincides with a major moment of ethnic reckoning in the United States and at Stanford, the George Floyd moment, if you will. Perhaps not since the civil rights era of the 1960s has the United States been more focused on coming to terms with the racial and ethnic dynamics that have shaped our history and lives in this society. After all, our commitment as a nation to having a fully integrated, multiracial, multi-ethnic society is relatively new, dating back only as far as the civil rights movement itself. We're seeing we still have a lot to learn. We thought back then that we had a way of doing this, of integrating society. We would be colorblind. We would not see race or ethnicity. We would all be just individuals. That's how we would move beyond our apartheid past. I can remember when this was a progressive idea. And colorblindness is a standard of fairness in many aspects of society. We want our policing to be colorblind. We want our access to quality healthcare to be colorblind, just to name a few recent relevant examples. But we didn't reckon, what we didn't reckon was how blind it would make us. It blinded us to the significance of identity, to the real significance of racial and ethnic identity in people's lives and their lived experience. It cast this lived experience as somehow unimportant. Why study race and ethnicity? Can't we just get past that? It's just dwelling on the past. Real scholarship and research is in pursuit of universal understandings. This ethos marginalized scholarship and research on race and ethnicity through much of my long career in academia. But now comes the death of George Floyd, another in a painfully long run of instances of police violence against Black people. And then thinking about George Floyd's life more fully, it becomes clear that racial and ethnic identities do matter in society, and not just in policing, but also in schooling, in criminal justice, health, access to health care, access to real estate, financial resources, and the like. And then comes the street violence against Asian and Pacific Islander Americans. These things have jolted us into a recognition that colorblindness without the effort to understand and undo the inequalities and hatreds imposed on racial and ethnic minorities is at best disingenuous and at worst a denial. We clearly need far deeper understandings of our history and the ways opportunity is still organized around identity, these old apartheids, understandings that go far beyond what any colorblind approach could deliver. This is where CSRE, RICSRE, and our Stanford family of centers focused on race and ethnicity come in. They bring the experience of America's racial and ethnic minorities into the mainstream of American academic and civil life, both the achievements and contributions of these groups and the persistent challenges in the lived experience of these groups. They uncover and teach the knowledge and understandings this society needs to become the multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy that we had the nobility to imagine in the 1960s. I am immensely proud of these centers and their affiliates. I am equally proud that 25 years after their beginning, it is through these centers that Stanford can see itself as stepping up with scholarship and research to meet the challenge of a George Floyd moment. Thank you. Now, I would like to introduce our host for the evening, the chair of CSRE's National Advisory Board, a lecturer in CSRE teaching entrepreneurship for social and racial equity, an entrepreneur, a filmmaker, a proud Stanford mom twice, and chief financial officer of the East Bay Community Foundation, Valerie Red Horse Mole. Valerie?
Oh, thank you so much, Claude. And thank you for that opening. Wow, I am so excited to be here. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to this evening's event, celebrating the rich history of CCSRE as we look forward to a bright future. We have a wonderful program in store for you as we recognize some of the incredible people and partners who have shaped CCSRE over the past 25 years. We will be sharing segments of a new book that chronicles the story of CCSRE, and you will also hear from members of the CCSRE community as we reflect on tonight's theme, Strength and Solidarity. But before we begin, we need to take a moment to acknowledge that Stanford sits on the unceded land of the Alumni people. We are delighted to show you a short video made by two of our students, Will Paisley and Asia Two Crows, in partnership with Stanford Live.
Stanford sits on the territory of Kiyan, the ancestral and unceded lands of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe,
who are the successors of the historic and sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was, and continues to be, of great importance to Native people.
We recognize that every member of the community has benefited
and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land.
Consistent with our values of community and diversity,
we have a responsibility
to
acknowledge and make visible
the university's relationship to Native people.
Thank you so much to Will and Asia, both students within the Native American Community Center. Will was a student of mine, actually. So as we get started, I wanted to make a little clarification to avoid any confusion. You will hear two acronyms tonight. CCSRE is the Center for the Comparative Studies in Race and Ethnicity, and CSRE, 1C, is the major. They're obviously fused together in relationship with one another, but you will hear both. And CCSRE has come a long way since its founding a quarter of a century ago. What started as a research workshop and a student hunger strike has grown into a multifaceted center at Stanford that has transformed the lives of countless students, faculty, practitioners, and impacted an entire field of knowledge. Given that we are in the midst of yet another moment of racial reckoning here in the United States and globally, we feel that the work we have done and will continue to do matters tremendously. Now, please enjoy another short video.
As a historian, but not unique to historians, we think about these critical moments in the history of race. I like to describe them as defining moments. We are smack dab in the middle of an absolute defining moment in race in America. The movements of people coming together across race that are saying, we see the need for racial justice, we see the need for reconciliation.
I think one major way in which race is changing is around the ways in which we are now very often thought of as data. CCSRE is located in the heart of the Silicon Valley, where so much of the ways in which the globe has changed in terms of who we are, our very being, transformed by data, is still a racial problem and a racial issue, also even in the very technology itself.
What is so important about the work Stanford does is it's rooted in intellectual research. It's really digging deep. This is not a surface level conversation we are having at Stanford, and I truly believe that the work we do here can be used to affect change, not just nationally, but globally.
Justice is our goal, but in doing so, we must also think about joy. And this is something that we can do through learning the histories of race, of art and activism, and the ways in which there's joy and solidarity.
We have to be an outside, outward-looking program, center of faculty and students and staff that say we want to be part of the solution of solving these problems that continue to haunt American society. And I'm excited about where the center is going because I think it is going to play a huge role.
Now, to reflect on this history of collective action, our current moment, and our shared future, we'd like to begin with a conversation between CCSRE's founding director, Professor Al Camarillo, and CCSRE's wonderful current faculty director, Professor Jennifer DeVere Brody. After the video, Jennifer will present Al with the inaugural CCSRE Distinguished Leadership Award.
Well, Jennifer, if we look back at our careers and we think about those defining moments in race in America, when we ask the question, how does race matter today? You and I probably couldn't have imagined that we would be facing again one of those moments, those critical junctures in American history, right? Of how race is just so fundamental to all of the issues and problems that are surfacing at this particular time in 21st century America.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, to hear candidates talking about race matters and racial platforms for looking at voting rights again, thinking about the global response to the death of George Floyd, the ways in which now there's not only a language that is permeated for race studies, but that we are yet again facing a moment of violence. But I feel like this response this time is different, and it makes studying race today more clearly something we must do. The comparative approach that is so much a hallmark, thanks to you and your colleagues and my colleagues here at Stanford and CCSRE, is, I think, one of the key values. Because we can't really understand our own situation unless we know those of others. And again, it gives that opportunity to work in solidarity, to have knowledge as a power, a way of understanding. What are the similarities and the differences between racial formations? How have they changed over time? It really opens up the whole world to be able to think about one's own place in relation to others. And I think that that is a core value in comparative studies.
And actually pose new questions, I think, that we couldn't have posed 30, 40 years ago, right, with the comparative approach today.
Yes, and even within certain kinds of questions, I think for a lot of the students, questions of intermixture or where does a racial boundary begin or end? You know, there was that intermixture, but we didn't always have the racial language and analysis to talk about.
That's exactly right.
So I wanted to get your perspective on how you think race studies has changed in the last 25 years.
You know, that's a great question because it's changed a lot in so many ways. I think clearly the formation, the establishment of CCSRE at Stanford was that one of those moments in the study of race in higher education. Think about how many more centers there are now, Jennifer, that do comparative studies of race and ethnicity, many of them patterned after our model, right? So that's another clear indication of a huge intellectual shift in the study of race in America, here and elsewhere.
That's right, and it started right here at Stanford and in California, which I think makes sense because of the vast demographic changes here in the state. And I think that the question of critical race studies or ethnic studies in the curriculum for high school and younger students coming from the model that we have here at the university is also another shift that's going to be happening across the country and the world.
Well, if we look at the students that have come across our paths here, they're having enormous impact in society because they're leaving CCSRE equipped to be leaders wherever they go on issues of race and ethnicity.
Not only their activism when they're often here, pushing the administration. I'm thinking about many of the Native American students who have worked to change some of the buildings on campus and rename them. It was, yes, done through committee, but it was largely the students themselves who were some of the first to foment those kinds of change on our own campus.
What's remarkable is when I started, we were talking about dozens of students, right? Now we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of students that are those change agents that are making our society better. Jennifer, I have to share with you that I've been reflecting on the Stanford experience, right? Because I started in 1975 when literally you could count the faculty of color probably on one hand, maybe two, certainly within two. And though the numbers are not huge, but you think of the quality of the people that we've attracted here that are making a difference within the institution and making the difference in their disciplines and in higher education. It is one of the great achievements that we've struggled for, and the university has adapted its ways so that more faculty of color have been able to come here, including you. I mean, 10 years ago, you were one of the key people that, as a senior faculty member, that we wanted to bring here to change things, which you did. And you became director of the center and the chair of the department. It's that kind of intergenerational cumulative progress that when I look back over those 45 years, I do it with such warm feelings and gratitude for you all.
Well, I have those same warm feelings and gratitude for you because this was a major change in my life. I was a full professor when I came, but your welcome, your example, along with my other senior colleagues and colleagues across the university who are part of the CCSRE, 150 strong affiliated faculty, and then the core faculty within the research center and who engage with all of our different programs have made a place where we are a community. So that legacy of CCSRE being a home for people who are engaged in the world, working for racial justice, this is one of the great aspects of being a faculty member here with CCSRE. And I'm so grateful to you for opening it up to me.
Well, we were lucky to bring you here. And one of my hopes for the future, of course, I'm not going to be involved in the teaching part of it, but when I see our younger faculty and the institution that is still grappling with how do we create spaces so the study of race and ethnicity in American society or worldwide becomes fundamental to what a Stanford education is. In fact, you could argue, as I like to do, that the study of race and ethnicity in our society is as fundamental as the continuing existence of American democracy.
That's right.
I would argue, right?
Absolutely.
And so we have to equip all students, right? Not just our CCSRE students, but all Stanford students for the future to have a knowledge, right? A knowledge base so that they become better citizens of the nation, not only just highly educated Stanford graduates.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so thrilled to see you, metaphorically anyway, in the audience and with us tonight. It's my distinct honor to present the inaugural CCSRE Distinguished Leadership Award to my friend, colleague, and like Hazel, Marcus and Claude Steele, my mentor, the wonderful Al Camarillo. This award is for a CCSRE affiliate who has distinguished themselves through extraordinary dedication and leadership to the center specifically, and racial justice broadly in their field of scholarship and beyond. Professor Al Camarillo, as you can see from that short video, embodies all the ideals we care about. Educated at UCLA, where he became the first Mexican-American to earn a PhD in American history with a focus on Chicana lives. He came to Stanford, as he said, in 1975 as an assistant professor in the history department. Then he helped to build the field of Chicano studies, as well as comparative studies, publishing more than 7 monographs, several co-edited collections, numerous articles, and more. He's the only faculty member in the history of Stanford University to receive 6 of the highest awards for excellence in teaching, service to undergraduate education, and contributions to the university and its Alumni Association. He continues his critical work even in retirement, and his most recent work involves trying to get a national curriculum, and in the state of California in particular, for ethnic studies. He is a wonderful advocate for that field that he helped to build. His memoir, entitled Going Back to Compton, A Native Son Searches for Racial Equality, will be published by Stanford University Press, and I've had a peek at it. It's just going to be wonderful. It's the sui generis story that chronicles his travels from Compton and includes a chapter on the formation of CCSRE and his time at the center. So we will all look forward to reading that. But I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being our shining star example. Congratulations, Al.
Thank you, Jennifer, my dear friend, and thank you for that kind introduction. And thanks to the center's leadership and staff for recognizing me with this award. I had no expectation, of course, of ever receiving an award for leadership from the center, because really my reward over the past 25 years, in all honesty, has been seeing the center grow and prosper. And that's an enormous award, an enormous experience for all of us that have been involved with the center. So a quarter century ago, we founded the center. And I've been thinking and writing about this experience, as you know, in recent months. Developing the center was clearly, absolutely a labor of love. It was and is today also a product of solidarity. And when I saw the announcement of this 25th anniversary event that Jennifer and the wonderful staff and leadership of the center, by the way, thank you for doing this. I know it's so hard. But when I saw that word solidarity in that announcement, this word captures so wonderfully the center's origins and its development over time. So this idea of solidarity was and still is enormously important for ethnic studies at Stanford, but across higher education. The historic origins of ethnic studies in the 1960s and 1970s was tied to solidarity. Solidarity among students, solidarity among faculty, solidarity among university leadership and communities of color who were arguing for a place in higher education. And it was solidarity among a group of amazing faculty colleagues in the 1990s, so many that if it would take me another 10 minutes to name them all. And this group came together to create something new, something really special in the intellectual development of ethnic studies, comparative studies, or ethnic studies 2.0, as I often call it. And there was a solidarity of undergraduate and graduate students who demonstrated an enormous commitment to racial and ethnic issues on campus, and who helped persuade the administration to move forward in a progressive way so that Stanford could position itself in the future as a leader in higher education. And that's something that has come to pass. And then there was the solidarity we acknowledges of the university leadership that made commitments to help create a better infrastructure, the center for teaching and learning and research in topics of race and ethnicity. But when I look back at the founding of CCSRE, and of course it's part of the ongoing development of ethnic studies in higher education, this story of the founding of CCSRE for me is such an inspirational story about how faculty and staff and students and the university administration, we came together at a moment in time 25 years ago to create an institution that is so special and lasting. It's permanent. It's a story about people committed to promoting an area of knowledge that was absolutely new in higher education when I started my journey a long time ago at UCLA as a young Chicano kid straight out of Compton. It's a story about people at Stanford committed to seeing that race and ethnic studies was firmly planted so that it could flourish and expand as it has. And it's a story really about institutional change and how that solidarity around fundamentally important issues in our society can taken up by a premier institution in the world, a great university, and through the center to be able to contribute enormously to our understanding about race and ethnic issues in our society and societies around the world. So ethnic studies, of course, was born in the aftermath of huge issues that rocked our nation in the 1960s, time when Claude and I were undergraduates. And CCSRE was born during a decade of hugely important issues that, again, rocked our society. And here we are again at one of those momentous times in our nation's history when knowledge production in race and ethnic studies is so badly needed in higher education. And higher education with this kind of knowledge to help lead the way in forging a more racially and just society. I know CCSRE and Stanford will be at the forefront of this challenge going forward. And though my time is past to be a central part of this effort, I'm confident that our students and our alums, our faculty, our staff, and university administration will build on these last 25 years and make for even a more fascinating, interesting, and important development for CCSRE and higher education. I just feel so wonderfully fortunate to have been a part of what the formation of ethnic studies 50 years ago when I was an undergraduate at UCLA, but most importantly, a part of CCSRE's last 25 years. And I look forward with great confidence that it's going to grow and prosper even more. Thank you all very much. I hope the next time that it's not virtual, that we talk and that we're together in a room so we can see one another. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I think we all agree with you, Al. And thank you for your years of service and leadership. As Jennifer noted, and it's clear, Al's work models solidarity in everything he does. His work, along with so many others, has built CCSRE into a place where differences converge and we create that stronger community. And now to commemorate CCSRE's 25 years, the Center commissioned an exceptional historian and one of our own, CCSRE Dissertation and Teaching Fellow, Calvin Chung Mao. He will be an assistant professor of history at Duke University. He interviewed dozens of students, faculty members, alums, and sources in newspapers and photo archives to produce this version of CCSRE's history that highlights our mission to produce interdisciplinary education, research, and community engagement with the goal of achieving racial equity. This amazing book is now available in digital format on the CCSRE website, and you can also receive your own hard copy by making a donation. Calvin, we'd love to invite you now to share a section of your wonderful book.
Thanks, Val. You know, when I first came to Stanford, I'm ashamed to say that I took the presence of CCSRE on campus for granted. But delving into the history of CCSRE has given me an appreciation of how much collective effort it took from students, faculty, staff, and board members like yourself to create an institution that has profoundly transformed Stanford, and I cannot overstate that point. I'm so thankful for having the opportunity to work on the 25th anniversary booklet, and I'm humbled to read an excerpt from the opening of the book and do so with gratitude for the participants it honors, such as Elvira Prieto, currently Stanford's Associate Dean of Students and Director of El Centro Chicano y Latino. May 4th, 1994. The sky was darkening over sophomore Elvira Prieto as she sat in Stanford's main quad. Elvira, who had worked with her parents in the fields and food packing sheds of San Joaquin Valley until coming to Stanford, was on hunger strike, along with 3 other members of Mecha, seniors Eva Silva and Julia Gonzalez Luna, and junior Tamara Alvarado. The 4 were joined by a handful of activists who had planned the hunger strike with them. Together, they had set up tents in the quad with the help of some friends who were majoring in engineering. Tamara had made sure to bring the blanket she had kept since she was 11 years old, while Elvira kept warm beneath a serape blanket and a sleeping bag, a hand-me-down from the family whose house Elvira cleaned as a teenager, in which her mother had mended by hand. Earlier in the day, when the hunger strike was launched, the quad had been full of supporters holding banners demanding that Stanford respect the Chicano community. But soon the crowds departed, leaving the small group of activists to itself amidst the quad's grand archways and tile roofs as evening settled over campus. Then they saw more students coming in from across the quad, marching towards them. Students from Ujima, where Elvira had lived the year before. Stomping and chanting, the marchers brought with them water for the hunger strikers, plus their own sleeping bags and blankets. They were going to spend the night. Over the next 3 days, more supporters joined from the Native American community, which was gathering in preparation for the upcoming powwow, from the Asian American community, from the Women's Center Collective, and others. The 3-day hunger strike and the support it galvanized among Stanford's students and faculty would lead to the founding of the Center for Comparative Studies in Race and Ethnicity. This would be the lasting legacy of the Machistas and their supporters. Over the 3 days, students successfully brought issues of deep concern to the top of the university administration's agenda. In doing so, they activated a much broader community in support of a new vision for the university. The students' demand for Chicano studies and the committees established to consider their demand mobilized an extant core of faculty who had great enthusiasm for ethnic studies. Although these faculty were studying different racial and ethnic groups and worked in different disciplines, they had begun to interact with each other through an interdisciplinary faculty seminar on comparative studies in race and ethnicity, coordinated by historians Al Camarillo and George Fredrickson. Faculty worked with students to realize the vision of Chicano studies that animated the 1994 hunger strikers. As that vision took concrete shape, it was revised into a new version of ethnic studies that encompassed Asian American studies and Native American studies, with strong links to Stanford's existing African and Afro-American studies and later Jewish studies programs. The program would be distinct from the kinds of ethnic studies programs that already existed at other universities. The legacy of the hunger strike for future generations of students would be the Center for Comparative Studies in Race and Ethnicity, CCSRE. Thank you again to the students, faculty, staff, and alumni who participated in this project. I hope this work does justice to your important and ongoing legacy.
Thank you so much, Calvin. As the history Calvin has just shared makes clear, student voices and activism were key to the founding of CCSRE, and students remain central to our community. Many students will be recognized for their outstanding work in community building, community engagement, and research at our commencement ceremony and other events in the coming weeks. For today, we have asked members of the CCSRE Undergraduate Council and other students to share their reflections on tonight's theme, Strength in Solidarity.
Community.
Community.
It's community.
Love, it's empathy, it's compassion, it's action in search of justice.
Bridging across and through our differences in order to build a movement towards the world that we want to see.
Solidarity means living life both mindfully and heartfully as a form of disruption to the dominant narrative until we are all a part of the narrative.
To me, solidarity means believing and trusting the people around me, believing in my own humanity, and showing up every day without guilt to actualize liberation in my actions and my words.
Solidarity to me means being able to acknowledge and meet each other where we're at, and acknowledging the identities that we hold dear to ourselves and the intersectional nature of them, and coming together and really celebrating each other for those identities, and understanding that at the end of the day, we are all working towards the same concept, which is liberation.
And what does a liberated world look like to you? I think it's one where first and foremost our actions are motivated more by our love for other people, other things, the earth, rather than fear. And also a world where everyone has the resources to not only survive but thrive and live a dignified life where they can experience pleasure and joy and share that with others.
It's where we acknowledge and honor our differences, not only to celebrate diversity for the sake of inclusion, but to also dismantle everyday systems of power, privilege, and oppression.
It's important to be a visionary. One of the most beautiful and powerful abilities that we as people of color have is our ability to dream and imagine and hope for better, whether that looks like hoping for a better future for your family and your children, or for dreaming a better reality for those around you, for your neighbors, and for yourself and for others.
No matter who you are, what you look like, you are able to live a just and beautiful life where you are able to do what you love, celebrate the people that you love, and be in community with folks that make you feel like you belong.
I love our students. And our CCSRE community here includes students, faculty, staff, as well as community members. It takes time and dedication to build and grow this community. The CCSRE Community Building Award recognizes an individual who has made exceptional contributions to strengthening the CCSRE community. To present the award, we would like to welcome Native American Studies major, Jackelyn Day Maram. Welcome, Jackelyn.
Hello. I'm extremely delighted to have been chosen to present the inaugural Community Building Award to Karen Biestman, Associate Dean and Director of the Native American Cultural Center and a personal mentor of mine. Her career has been rich and illustrious, teaching Native Studies at Stanford and at Berkeley. She has served as Director of Indian Education for the EPA and is currently Vice President of the Board of the California Indian Museum, amongst so many other wonderful works on behalf of Indigenous peoples. While these offer her a wealth of connectivity and experiential knowledge, I think the thing that makes her the most precious to us here at Stanford is the heart that she puts into the community. Having taken 3 of her classes now, I can attest to the fact that she is deeply generous in her contributions to students as human beings. She is always poetic in her weaving of values, community, and Indigenous upliftment into her lectures, ensuring that we are not seen as peripheral considerations of an academic topic, but rather as an offering of lifelong understanding and contribution. Because of this willingness to rely on values, faith in community, and the humanity of her students, she has become a much admired advisor to so many of us in life, community, and academics. From the thoughtfulness she put into the SARE name change to the continual passion she puts into securing speakers, artists, and caretakers for the NAC space, she always demonstrates the attentiveness, love, and humor that we all endeavor to contribute to our communal spaces. She is truly our beloved auntie away from home, and we are so honored to have her wisdom available to guide us. I cannot think of another person who deserves to be uplifted more.
Karen?
Val, we don't have Karen on hand.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just say a congratulations to Karen. She's an amazing part of CCSRE, and just celebrate her. And thank you for that, Jackelyn. You know, it's always exciting to see that our CCSRE students go on and do really amazing things. They include policymakers, health experts, educators, community organizers, tech workers, and business leaders. This evening, we would like to feature 2 of our alums. First, we will feature an artist, Kiyan Williams, who graduated from CCSRE in 2013. Kiyan will share their piece, Reaching Toward Warmer Suns. Kiyan?
Hello, everyone. I'm sending so much love from New York City. My name is Kiyan Williams. I'm an artist, writer, and professor, and a very proud alum of CSRE. I'm so thrilled and honored to be here with you all to celebrate such a special moment in CSRE's history and to celebrate a group of people who have shaped my intellectual and artistic journey and whose research and imagination are shaping a more equitable world. This evening, I'm thrilled to return virtually for the celebration to share an excerpt of my video, Notes on Digging, which documents the installation of my public artwork, Reaching Towards Warmer Suns. Reaching Towards Warmer Suns is a set of sculptures resembling long arms with upstretched hands that are made of earth from and rise out of the banks of the James River in Richmond, Virginia. I made and installed the work last spring and summer while on faculty at Virginia Commonwealth University amidst national and global uprisings protesting state-sanctioned violence against Black people, of which Richmond was an epicenter. And I made this work amongst calls to remove monuments of white cis male Confederate war heroes. The national calls to remove colonial monuments epitomize that art and objects hold meaning, and in this context can romanticize histories of subjugation. Reaching Towards Warmer Suns was my approach to a counter-hegemonic monumentalism practice, a way of using public art to unearth how the histories of chattel slavery are deeply embedded in the land we inhabit and continue to haunt the present, and as a means to memorialize the ongoing and collective struggles of self-determination of Black people in America. And so I present to you Notes on Digging.
I had to dig it out. If I didn't, it would rot and fester and consume me from the inside out. And so I began to dig. I began to dig to see what might come up, to see what traces of stolen life were left behind in the soil. I had just moved to Richmond. My apartment is in Manchester on the south side of the city. Literally, as I was pulling off of I-95 to go to my apartment, I saw a sign that said Richmond Slave Trails. And so I followed the trail to the river, to the James River, where I learned about its history as a former dock where some of the first enslaved Black people touched land in the New World, in the colony, that was Virginia. The site now, the trail, is a popular place where people go fishing, people go running and biking. And so I felt the need to mark the space as sacred somehow, or to memorialize histories that are erased and forgotten. And I spent many, many days over the course of for 2 months, just taking meditative walks along the trail. And one day I was looking at the trees and I just saw kind of hands just emerging out of the trees. And that became inspiration for the form. And as I was continuing to sort of ask myself this question, how do you memorialize the ongoing struggles of self-determination for Black people, I was sort of motivated by a question that Black studies scholar Christina Sharp asked in The Wake, and she posits, how does one memorialize chattel slavery in its afterlives that are still unfolding? How do we memorialize an event that is still ongoing?
Kiyan, is the video finished?
Yes, the piece I finished it last summer, where it was presented at a museum in New York, the Shed, following the installation of the sculptures at Socrates Sculpture Park in New York.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, I just want to thank you for being here with us tonight and for sharing your work. You're such a great example of one of our students. Tell us a little bit more about your process in making this piece.
Totally. When I approached the piece, I was thinking about, or in my sort of conceptual practice, I think about soil and engaging soil as an alternative archive for histories that are erased, obscured, neglected within the collective American imagination. And the idea of using a creative practice as an alternative form of remembering history was one that was introduced to me during my undergraduate studies at Stanford when I studied with Professor Jennifer Brody. And so as I had moved to Richmond and was learning of the city's sort of role within colonial America, one of the observations I made was the collective amnesia around the history of slavery in Richmond. And so I felt moved and compelled to use public space and public art to unearth these histories.
Well, it's a wonderful piece, Kiyan. Thank you for coming back to share it with us. And we wish you continued success with your career. And as I understand it, we're going to be seeing your sculpture here on campus soon, this summer through fall of 2021, in collaboration with Stanford's Anderson Art Collection.
Yes, I'm so thrilled and excited that the sculptures will travel next this summer through the winter to Stanford and will be installed in front of the Anderson collection. I'm so thrilled that Stanford's community gets to engage with the work, and I look forward to hearing feedback and responses from students and former professors.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kiyan. And now I'm going to jump back a moment. Just a moment ago, Jackelyn presented Karen Biestman with the Community Building Award, and we want to welcome Karen to just say a few words as we uplift your amazing work, Karen.
Thanks so much. And I think one of the lessons we learned this year is to be nimble with technology. So I apologize for being out of order. I heard everything, and warmest thanks so much to Jackelyn for your kind words, and to CSRE for recognizing the value of community building. And most importantly, to the family of students and faculty and staff and alumni who are the community. You are what binds and nourishes and challenges us. This year summoned intentionality even more than usual due to our virtual reality. And I can't say that I approached my teaching and community work with a clear strategic plan, but as always, the teachings of our own mentors guide our instincts. Chippewa author Gerald Visner says that every storier creates a story that is in fact a creation itself, and that the creation is in motion, it is present, it is resistant, and is a way to think of ourselves individually and in community, especially in trying times. Inside and outside the classroom, I embrace this idea that we are all storiers on this journey in an act of creation. We ground ourselves in Indigenous frameworks like peacemaking, and I listen carefully to the intergenerational wisdom of my own peacemaking teachers. We ground ourselves in shared values, beginning every class or forum with, what is your core personal value and who gifted it to you? Time after time, words like trust, respect, kindness, reciprocity, understanding, compassion, empathy, honesty, integrity, awareness, holding space for others, assume good intentions, and yes, love guided our conversations and our work. We ground ourselves in shared practices like intentional listening and equity of time and space, even on Zoom. This is how we learn, and this is how we heal. We give grace and forgiveness to each other. We seize and savor moments of mutual understanding, joy, humor, a synchronized DoorDash meal, or the successful completion of a project together. Ultimately, that we can also align to reframe a critical consciousness in the academy and foster solidarity as part of something larger than ourselves, and in a pandemic and in a year of unleashed national and global violence is a worthy testament to the power of community. And on campuses, we struggle with questions of how to address harm, including the area of free speech. Our voices are critical in the dialogue. I'm deeply honored to be part of this journey with all of you creative storyers, and especially blessed by the abundant courage, wit, grit, humility, and open hearts of our students. You are the change agents today and the next 25 years. Happy anniversary, CSRE.
Thank you so much, Karen. So well said. And now I would like to welcome one of my fellow board members, Reiko Osaki, who will present our Distinguished Alum Award, which recognizes an alum of a CCSRE program who has demonstrated an outstanding commitment to racial justice and the work of CCSRE. Reiko, welcome.
Thank you, Val. As a Stanford undergraduate, Michael Tubbs chose to major in comparative studies in race and ethnicity. A few years after graduating, he was elected mayor of Stockton, California in 2016. He was the first African-American mayor of the city, and at 26 years old, the youngest mayor of any major city in American history. As mayor, he raised over $20 million to create the Stockton Scholars, a scholarship and mentorship program for Stockton students. As recorded in the HBO documentary, Stockton on My Mind, Michael speaks passionately about his work as mayor, where he was among the first to experiment with providing a universal basic income to Stockton residents. Michael is founder and executive chairman of Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, which now includes over 50 mayors who advocate for an income floor for all Americans. He is moving his pilot to policy. Recently, Michael was appointed as a special advisor to Governor Newsom for economic mobility and opportunity. His groundbreaking work exemplifies our CCSRE values that promote racial equity. Michael has said that having a Stanford degree comes with immense privilege. Certainly, his work on campus, locally, and on our national stage makes him an excellent person to receive our inaugural Distinguished Alum Award. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Reiko. And in hearing how busy Michael is, unfortunately, he is not with us tonight. He's unable to be here, but he did write a little something that I'm going to read for us in his voice. This is from Michael. As mentioned in the bio, the Stanford degree does carry with it immense privilege. In this moment, it is not enough to apologize for that fact, but to purpose to it, to be intentional and thoughtful about becoming what I learned to be in my CSRE courses, an organic intellectual. In this moment, we are seeing attacks on critical thinking, on critical race theory, on a telling of our national story that centers those whom the dominant culture has sought to marginalize in the center. In this moment, we all must do more. With the urgency provided by the understanding that the society we inherited is the manifestation of yesterday's imagination. I am so honored to receive this award, this is Michael, and would challenge us all to imagine and create a world that makes our ancestors and our descendants proud. Congratulations, Michael. And now let's enjoy another short video.
I find strength in the solidarity at CCSRE because it's a group of people who are deeply committed to the study of race and ethnicity and who are willing and in fact embrace the discomfort that comes with studying those issues, and a group of people who are willing to create an environment where we can struggle together to come to a greater understanding of something that is so central to the human experience and the human condition.
Rather than solidarity, I prefer to think in terms of coalition. With whom can I work and how and why? How might we arrive together at goals that will involve our common flourishing? In what situations should I subordinate my goals and interests to achieve yours? And when will you do the same for me? Coalition is never easy nor comfortable, but it is core to the recognition of differences and the importance of working together across them.
To me, solidarity is an intellectual pursuit and an emotional journey. It is also the persistent feeling that I stand by you as your fellow traveler when you want me there. It is the incomprehensible, automatic reaction I have to stand in front of you, to be your armor when your adversary comes at you. Solidarity is the complex desire that when a Uyghur Muslim cries in China, my heart sings in California. When a black person sings hip-hop in the USA, someone dances in Gaza. And when a genocide takes place anytime in human history, we collectively cry never again. That's what solidarity means to me. It's your knowing that my breath belongs to you until we both feel that things are going to be okay. That's what solidarity means to me.
As a center-left Ashkenazoid Jew with roots in Central Europe, I think of myself in solidarity with minorities the world over, and as in solidarity with politics that enable the flourishing of collectives. As a feminist Ashkenazoid center-left Jew, I consider it my task to assess critically any form of collective, whether minority and certainly majority, in terms of the gender equities they promote. Such critical work, to me, is also a form of solidarity.
Solidarity is working together to take care of the most marginalized among us.
Solidarity means working with the community in order to achieve a larger collective goal that benefits us all.
For everyone who has been involved in CCSRE over the last 25 years, we all know that we are all dreamers. We have all been dreaming about a more equitable future and about a future where the interlocking systems of oppression in our society are dismantled and where we can all be free. It takes solidarity to make this happen. It takes allyship, it takes working together and dreaming together. And that's solidarity.
Thank you for that. It's such a wonderful evening and moment in time to be celebrating solidarity. And as we heard earlier, it was actually a group of Stanford faculty who came together for a series of workshops to explore new ideas that extended beyond the boundaries of individual disciplines and individual racial and ethnic identity groups. These workshops provided the foundation for the next quarter of a century of work at CCSRE. We thank all of our nearly 150 faculty affiliates who help us realize our vision. I would now like to welcome CCSRE's Director of Research, Professor Alfredo Artiles, the Lee L. Japps Professor of Education, to present the Emerging Scholar Award. Alfredo.
Thank you, Val. It is my honor to present the Emerging Scholar Award. This award recognizes distinction in research on racial justice conducted by an untenured CCSRE faculty affiliate. It gives me great pleasure to present this inaugural award to Dr. Jackelyn Hwang. Jackie is Assistant Professor of Sociology and an FDI affiliate of the center. She graduated from Stanford with degrees in sociology and math and went on to complete her doctorate at Harvard. Since joining the faculty at CCSRE in 2017, she has taught popular classes such as race, place, and stratification, and published numerous articles, including Indigenous Places and the Making of Undocumented Status in Mexico-US Migration, with CCSRE colleague Assad. This paper was selected for the Louis Wirth Best Article Award from the American Sociological Association. Jackie's research in urban studies, demography, and housing inequality uses big data and innovative statistical modeling. Her Changing Cities Policy Lab studies how changes in US cities impact racial segregation and develops policy solutions that promote racial equity. Recently, Jackie was awarded a grant in the first cohort of recipients of the CCSRE Race and Justice Research Awards. These grants foster relationships between community partners and Stanford researchers. Professor Hwang's project, Ending Racial Disparities in Residential Instability, partners with the City of Oakland to understand and ameliorate racial inequities in housing. And so in so many ways, from her interdisciplinary collaborations to her cross-racial comparative scholarship, to her commitment to partnership-based research that advances racial equity, Dr. Hwang embodies the values, spirit, and mission of CCSRE. We're pleased to honor her work with this award. Please join me in congratulating Professor Jackelyn Hwang.
Hi everyone, I'm incredibly grateful and honored to be receiving this award. I'm sad that I'm not able to attend this event live, but I'm looking forward to celebrating with many of you in person in the near future. While I'm of course lucky to be here at Stanford, this year has presented unique challenges for all of us, both personally and in our work. So receiving this award during these times and to be recognized by my colleagues is particularly touching. CCSRE has been a pivotal part of finding my place here at Stanford, and I feel very lucky to be a part of it. It's really been a second home, and I'm just so appreciative of all the support that CCSRE has provided over my last 4 years here at Stanford, for my research and lab, my ideas, and me as a person. My scholarship is truly better because of CCSRE. I also want to give a special thanks to Jennifer for being a great director, resource, mentor, and former neighbor. Your direction at CCSRE will truly be missed. Thank you also to the amazing staff at CCSRE for everything you do and making this such a vibrant community. I also want to give a huge, huge thanks to all the students who have worked with me on my research projects, both past and present. My research would be nothing without you. And finally, I want to thank all the students that I've taught, my colleagues, my friends, and family for supporting me in this journey and for inspiring my work. Thank you again for this recognition and for reminding me of what I am accomplishing despite the pandemic and motivating me to accomplish more.
Love with a revolution. In the same way, solidarity requires love. And like love, it takes a great deal of courage.
For me, solidarity means that if they're coming for me in the morning, they're coming for you at night, which is, of course, the quote from Angela Davis, which reminds us that our histories of oppression are deeply, deeply linked, and that the way that we're going to be able to transform that oppression is by coming together and fighting on the same side.
To me, solidarity means listening, so that white folks like me know how to use our privilege so we can fight white supremacy.
Understanding that our liberations are all intrinsically tied together. And in order for us as a collective to be free, we need to work towards freeing those most at the margins of society.
To me, solidarity is about standing up and speaking up for an individual, for a group, or for a cause, without having to be asked, even when there is potential for personal or professional risk. In solidarity, you choose the greater common good over personal gain.
Para mí, solidaridad significa apoyarnos unos a otros para que todos tengamos los mismos derechos y oportunidades.
Solidarity to me means people coming together for fairness and working for mutual benefit.
Solidarity for me means love, it means hugs, it means laughter, and it means, most importantly, community. CCSRE is solidarity.
Thank you again to our wonderful staff. And over the years, our staff have been critical to the development of the center, from managing budgets, administration and communications, to assisting with academic programs and research. Our wonderful staff supports students and faculty while building world-class programs that extend the reach and impact of the center. This evening, we would like to recognize a former member of the CCSRE staff who was responsible for establishing the center's community engagement program, which has been a model at Stanford and beyond, and which has become a central aspect of all we do at CCSRE. And I'm really honored because here to present the award for community engagement, please welcome Tricia and Jeff Rakes. Jeff, class of 1980, is the co-founder of the Rakes Foundation and the chair of the Stanford Board of Trustees. Tricia Rakes is the co-founder of the Rakes Foundation. They do amazing work. Trish and Jeff have been generous supporters of CCSRE, including providing the resources to establish the Community Engaged Learning Program at the center. We are so honored to have you here with us tonight. Jeff and Tricia, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Val. Tricia and I extend our appreciation and gratitude to all of the leaders being recognized this evening. And we have a special opportunity in that context, recognizing staff solidarity leadership. Dr. Tania Mitchell is a leading scholar on civic discourse, social justice theory, service learning practice, and community engagement in higher education. She is currently an associate professor of higher education at the University of Minnesota and a McKnight Presidential Fellow. Much of her research focuses on service learning as a critical pedagogy to explore civic identity, student learning, race and racism, and community practice. When at Stanford, she was the center's associate director for undergraduate studies, director of service learning, and a university resident fellow. At CCSRE, Tania developed many of the critical service learning models that shaped what Stanford now calls cardinal service. These models help professors and students to mobilize their intellectual learning into practical application in the community.
Tania opened up new possibilities and ways of thinking for Stanford students about how they could and show up in the world, not only as business and professional leaders, but also as actively engaged community members. The courses Tania designed and influenced with other faculty were some of the most highly student-rated courses. And now Cardinal Service offers quarters across the campus, and the service ethos has become part of the fabric of the student experience. During her visionary leadership, Tania also helped build a whole field of research that critically engage issues of race, racism, and oppression for community engaged learning practice. In 2012, it was tough to hear the news that Tania was leaving CCSRE, but she reassured us that she strongly believed in CCSRE's and Stanford's commitment to a deeper integration of service learning and community engagement in academic programs. She foretold the future. Today, it is clear that the foundation Tania created continues to thrive at CCSRE as well as Stanford through undergraduate fellowship programs and the breadth of community engaged learning courses. Along the way, she also inspired two very new philanthropists to think outside the box and to take risks by investing in big new ideas. Tania, we are so honored to present you with the inaugural Community Service Award in recognition of your significant support of Stanford's commitment to developing the whole student and your meaningful contributions to scholarship and leadership. You have infused so much intellectual rigor, heart, and community spirit into CCSRE as well as Stanford. So with deep gratitude from Jeff and I to you, thank you.
Wow, thank you. I am so honored. Thank you, Jeff and Tricia, for being here to present this award. Thank you for your partnership and your collaboration, and for being so willing to put your names and resources behind the community engagement work at CCSRE. I want to thank Professor David Palumbo for finding me and giving me the opportunity to do this work. I want to thank Kathy Cole, Gary Segura, Rob Reish, Sammy Alim, Paula Moya, Hazel Marcus for making room and space for me in your teaching and in your classes. I want to thank Sonia Clark Herrera and the artists and staff at Mural Music and Arts Project, the staff and organizers at the Manila Town Heritage Foundation, the youth leaders at Youth United for Community Action, and the leaders and organizers of the California Domestic Workers Alliance for their trust, their partnership, and their willingness to share their journeys and their work, and for the opportunity for CCSRE to contribute to it. The initiative that we ignited at CCSRE in 2007 changed the conversation around community engagement at Stanford. We reshaped the institution's vision for what community engagement can and should be by modeling a strategy that centered deep relationships with community partners, generative opportunities for student engagement, and an unapologetic commitment to centering issues of race and racism in our approach. Through the experiences I was able to develop here, I've been able to shift policy and practice in higher education community engagement. The field now has new standards for what it means to do ethical and effective community engagement, for what it means to be an engaged campus, and CCSRE has been a significant partner in the redefinition of that work. Congratulations to all of us, to all of you, for your part in the work of CCSRE. I'm excited that community engagement remains such an important commitment, as it is emblematic of the strength and solidarity that this event celebrates. I am so proud of the work we were able to develop, and of course that Dr. Rigoberto Marquez continues to lead and make better our community engagement work at CCSRE. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Tania, and to Jeff and Tricia. And Tania, happy birthday. You share this birthday with another community member, our former board member, and the first Black graduate of Stanford Med School, Dr. Augustus White. So it's a special day. Our community believes in paying tribute to all those who's influenced us, whether they're still with us or have moved on, literally or figuratively, and including to always remember that we have ancestors, that those who shape us, that we work to carry on their legacies. I would like now to introduce my dear colleague, Dr. Hazel Marcus, the Davis Brack Professor in the Department of Psychology, who will recognize some individuals who indeed continue to influence CCSRE from beyond. Hazel has played a major role in CCSRE from its inception, and her imprint on the community, like those individuals she's going to introduce and honor, is indelible. She was the director of the Research Center at CCSRE, RIXRE, for 10 years and acting director of the center for 1 year. She also co-authored one of the main textbooks for CCSRE, Doing Race, with our new incoming faculty director, Dr. Paula Moya. And also, she's produced Race Works. They both worked on that, along with Jennifer Eberhardt's group Spark and our former CCSRE Associate Director, Mariam Hamadani. So Hazel, you are a core member and key contributor to CCSRE, as are the following individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, everyone. I am so honored to have the chance to pay tribute to just a few of the members of the CCSRE community whose memories live on and inspire the work that we do every day at the center. And I'm particularly happy to have this opportunity because a few of them were my really, really close friends and colleagues. So let me start first with Margarita Ibarra. Oh gosh, it makes me cry. Margarita Ibarra served at CCSRE's student service as a student services coordinator for 14 years, touching the lives of countless students and making CCSRE a warm, welcoming, and supportive community. The CCSRE Community Building Award, which we give each year to a graduating senior, was established in 2011 to honor her memory. Next, I'd like to remember Lyric McHenry, CCSRE class of 2016. Cared deeply about the ways in which race and identity inform the world in which we live. Her senior paper, supervised by Dr. Jennifer Brody, examined Fanon's theories of visibility in work by Black British filmmaker Steve McQueen. Lyric worked in social media industries, making them more accessible to communities of color and others who are excluded from representation and who lacked access to the means of production. Lyric modeled an inclusive openness to all people and had a luminous presence. Her name graces a new fellowship awarded by the Institute for Diversity in the Arts. Next, I'd like to remember George Frederickson. From 1984 to his retirement in 2002, George Frederickson was the Edgar E. Robinson Professor of U.S. History at Stanford. He was an activist for racial justice and among the nation's most eminent historians. He helped invent the field of comparative history through his brilliant study, White Supremacy, a comparison of American and South African history, which was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. Few, if any, other historians have so imaginatively used a comparative approach to racism in America. I had the honor to work with George as a co-director of CCSRE's Research Center, which we used to call RIXRE, and I believe that his book, Racism, A Short History, which compares anti-Black and anti-Jewish racism, as well as an earlier book called The Black Image in the White Mind, should be essential reading for anyone concerned with changing the world or creating a better one. Camarillo says it best and remembers him as, quote, a man of enormous intellect who is deeply committed to the values of equality, justice, and opportunity. And Al goes on to say, I taught with him for many years. He was a gentle, big man. I never heard him say a mean word about anyone other than that he didn't like racists. CCSRE now presents the George Frederickson Award for the best essay by an undergraduate in the field on an annual basis. And next and last, I'd like to talk about my dear friend and colleague, Dorothy Steele. Dorothy served as the inaugural executive director of the center. Dorothy's life was centered around three guiding principles: love of family, creating a more just and fair society, especially for the most vulnerable of our children, and building community solidarity wherever she found herself. Dorothy worked with the preschool programs created during the War on Poverty in the 1970s and 80s, and in the 1990s with Oakland's Child Development Project, through which she helped educate teachers on how to create classrooms in which children from diverse backgrounds could thrive. When Dorothy joined CCSRE, she became the heart and soul of the Research Center for CCSRE, which sponsored monthly faculty seminars, organized multidisciplinary faculty networks on the most crucial and race-relevant issues of the day, and brought faculty from around the country to spend a year at CCSRE as faculty fellows. With her colleagues, she launched a multi-year, multi-school research project to try to develop a profile of the teacher behavior, the techniques and practices that would foster identity safety for minority and low-income students. Techniques that have been shown to increase belongingness and academic performance among these students. And this work and the very specific ways in which it needs to be translated into classroom practice led directly to her very influential book entitled Identity Safe Classrooms, Places to Belong and Learn, which she co-authored with her dear friend and longtime colleague, Dr. Becky Cohn-Vargas. Each year since her passing in 2017, we give an award in her name to two graduating seniors who carry on her commitment to community engagement and social service. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. Thank you so much for that. And as we remember these members of our own CCSRE community who have passed on, whose legacies live on, We would also like to take a moment of silence to not only remember them, but to acknowledge those who have died this past year during the twin pandemics of COVID-19 and racial violence. Let us take a moment. We certainly hope that you have a sense of our commitment to interdisciplinary education, research, and community engagement. So too our active investments that foster a more racially just world. This work has been done by the individuals you have met this evening and with the support of so many parents, friends, colleagues, administrators, and course funders. We want to recognize those that have provided financial support for CCSRE over the years. You met Jeff and Tricia Rakes earlier. Thank you, Jeff and Tricia, for your generosity. Anne and Lauren Kiva, who sponsor our annual Distinguished Lecture. Ina Coleman, whose generosity has allowed us to expand our communications and public engagement work. Adrian and Monica Jung Arima, who have given to improve Asian American Studies, the Provo, President, Alum Foundation, as well as deans of HNS and all of the many, many others who have helped our students and programs as we work to advance racial equity through interdisciplinary teaching, research, and community engagement. We would encourage you to support the work of CCSRE now or at any time. You can click the support link at the top of the page on your screen now, or at any other time, make a gift by going to the link on the CCSRE website homepage. Now is the time that we would ask you to support this very important work at an inflection point in our history where it's more important than ever. The work that we do here at the CCSRE community at Stanford and throughout the nation and the world. We thank you for your support and just thank everyone for the last 25 years and look forward to so many more.
The conversations about race have moved from short-term fixes to structural changes to address the inequities. I think it's really important that the center is focused on the impact of race in all aspects of society to further the dialogue, as well as to raise the profile of this critical subject.
CSRE, as well as ethnic studies all over the country, was started through activism. It was started through student action. It was started through movement. And I think that's reflective of the students who are taking classes in CSRE, who are majoring in it. They want to make change with what they learn. And they want to impact those communities that they come from. And they want to be able to spread this education, this knowledge that isn't often taught.
One of the key features of CCSRE is that we require all our students to do something called community engagement, which is community learning outside of the classroom with community partners, where we can see race working on the ground.
One of the most impactful classes that I took with CSRE was Community Organizing for Social Change, which gave me the opportunity to work with the community organization in my Oakland community that I had worked with since high school. And what it really taught me was understanding different theories and pedagogies and understanding my positionality as a Stanford student studying CSRE. Even if I'm organizing in my own community, I need to understand that we need to center those communities. It's about building relationships and continue to support those communities after I graduate and after I end that fellowship. And that's something that I really take everywhere I go.
I still channel my lessons from CSRE curriculum, the conversations I had with professors and speakers, as well as the friendships that I've cultivated to commit myself to driving structural change. As I raise 2 young daughters, thinking about what belonging means as a woman of color. As I mentor and manage people earlier in their careers, emphasizing the need to bring your whole self to work and to be a full human being in whatever you do.
I teach a CCSRE course. It's cross-listed with Native American Studies. This is not hyperbole. It's the highlight of my life when I see students that have those aha moments and they create an amazing business plan and they understand impact and racial equity and social justice in the commercial for-profit world and how they will make a difference and how they will address sustainable development goals. I mean, it just starts to get me so excited because I know those students are our future.
Thank you so much. Tonight's theme as we come to the close has been strength and solidarity. Such solidarity comes in many forms. It is effective, political, and necessary for remaking a world so that racial justice structures every organization, interaction, and institution. We want to recognize our too numerous to name Stanford partners, programs, centers, labs, and others who've collaborated with us over the years. These community partners in particular provide help for our research institutes that our students find so invaluable. You've all helped further the goals of CCSRE, and we are grateful. I want to take just a minute to notice some of the centers of equity, inclusion, and leadership that fall under the aegis of Assistant Vice Provost Jan Barker-Alexander, who just won the university's Cuthbertson Award for service. So Asian American Studies this year also includes Cindy Ng, who leads that group and won an Amy Blue Award, the highest award for staff. The NAC that you heard about, El Centro Chicano Latino, Black Student Services Office Center, under Rosalind Connerly, the Women's Community, the Marquez Center. So many of these centers are also part of the work that we do. So I'd like to call now to the virtual stage Executive Director Daniel Murray and Associate Director of Education and Community Engaged Learning, Rigoberto Marquez, to just name two groups that have been helpful with us this past year.
Thank you, Jennifer. We'd like to name several key partners that have been transformative for the center. We've sent each a print of the 25th anniversary artwork that you've seen on our website and elsewhere as a token of our appreciation. I'd like to start with one group that's been really important in projects that I've been working on, as so many of us at the center for the past several years. 3 years ago, we started to develop ideas for a technology and racial equity initiative at CCSRE. What began as a small reading group among the staff and a few faculty has grown into a multifaceted initiative that includes undergraduate, graduate, practitioner fellowship programs, research, and an international conference. And from the very outset of this, we've been joined in the work by the Stanford Digital Civil Society Lab. They have been our partners every step of the way. It's directed by Professor Rob Reish and Lucy Bernholz, and we thank them for their commitment to racial justice, their generosity in time, energy, and resources, and daring as we experiment together, try to transform Stanford, Silicon Valley, maybe the world. Your partnership has been transformative, certainly for CCSRE. I also want to acknowledge the staff at the lab who've played such an important role in all of the programs we've developed. Toussaint Notais, Rebecca LaPena, and Heather Robinson. Thank you for your partnership in this important work.
We also would like to recognize two partners who make a big part of the critical work that we do with our community engaged learning work. Of over the 25 community organizations that we have been able to work with over the last few years, it gives me a lot of great joy to be able to highlight San Francisco Rising, which works to build the political power of working class communities and communities of color in San Francisco to lead the way for democratic governance that prioritizes racial, economic, and environmental justice. Through their work, several of our students have had opportunities to learn how to become effective organizers and put ideas of race and social justice into practice. Thank you, Sally, and the team at San Francisco Rising for being such an important partner for us at CCSRE. I would also like to give a special shout out to Stanford's QSR. Because of the partnership that we have with QSR, we've been able to provide opportunities for students to specifically work with organizations that center the lived experiences of those in the queer community. And it's because of that work that we've been able to really create a lot of programs that have really been impactful, not only here in the local community, but across the country. So thank you again to San Francisco Rising and QSR for being such exemplary partners to CCSRE.
Now we give special thanks and recognition to two Stanford programs who have been our partners in the struggle to improve race studies at Stanford and who model solidarity, strength, scholarship, and success. First, the Institute for Diversity in the Arts, IDA, directed now by Alon Holt and Professor Adam Banks, and the soon-to-be department, but the program in African and African American Studies, directed by Professor Allison Hobbs and Associate Director Katie Dieter, Student Service Officer Crystal Todoroff, postdocs Hadia Sawyer and Kim McNair, Sasha Jackson, the Graduate Student Collective, and the undergraduates in the program. Thank you all for being such extraordinary partners. We couldn't do our work without you. I want also to herald the efforts of every single student, including our incoming PhD minor students, all the students past and present. You are our raison d'etre and our inspiration. I also want to thank the staff colleagues. You made tonight and our decades of work at the center possible, as I think we've seen. We thank our wonderful center manager, Marcia Challoner, who will be stepping down from her post next month, for all her contributions, and also the current and former board members, all of the fabulous faculty directors with whom I've worked over these past 5 years, our lecturers, our various members of the steering committee who are faculty, our staff. You didn't get to meet, but Perlita Dicochea and Byron Bajarona and Heidi Lopez all did a lot of work behind the scenes. You saw their images in the short clips. Thank you for being extraordinary staff, along with Daniel and Rigoberto. I also want to just take a minute to thank the university administration, who is recognizing the urgent need for the growth of race studies through IDEAL and other programs. We have also our gratitude to Matt Snip, who is our Vice Provost for Diversity and Faculty and runs the Faculty Diversity and Development Initiative, who has been a core member and also former director of the center. Some more local thank yous: Diego Marcial Rios for the beautiful 24/5 artwork that we mentioned we're giving to our community partners, DJ Dorien, who got us started and will be playing at the after party very shortly, as well as to Amy Hugh and Kevin Morrison and everyone at Stanford Video. You've just been extraordinary and helped with a lot of the videos for the program, as well as the Stanford Alum Association, which gave monetary support for tonight's program. I also want to thank the many campus essential workers, those whose jobs became more difficult under COVID-19, and those who actually lost their livelihoods during that difficult year, our difficult year. Before we go, a warm, genuine welcome to our incoming faculty director and long-term, as you can tell from tonight's program, participant in CCSRE, Dr. Paula Moya, who takes up this role in the fall. Welcome, Paula. Also, I want to take a moment to thank our brilliant MC, real pro, and just such a wonderful person, Valerie Red Horse Mall. Thank you for your work tonight and always. So just a couple of things now. I'll turn the spotlight back to Daniel, but I just want to say it really has been such an honor to be here tonight, to be a part of CCSRE. This is my home at Stanford. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And now we have a little surprise. This is not in the script, but there have been a lot of thank yous tonight and a lot of appreciation. And we want to take a moment to thank you, Jennifer, for your commitment and your work that you've done over the past 5 years at the center. So we have a few guests we'd like to join us right now. I believe will be all popping up on screen here. Or let's go first to Dorien for a few words if we can. Dorien, are you with us? A student of Professor Brody's.
Dorien is not here right now.
Well, let's go to Rigoberto. Rigoberto's got some words. Love for Jennifer.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for being such an extraordinary leader for CCSRE and for leading the center with such elegance, with such grace, and with such a commitment to students and to faculty. and to staff. And so I just want to thank you for making it the space that it has become. And I look forward to building on all of the work that you started for us.
Samer El Saber has joined us as well, I believe. Samer.
Jennifer, I honestly never know what to say. What do new and experienced scholars want in academia? We want to work with a model scholar, leader, colleague, mentor, and friend. You are all these and more. You are a trailblazer. You not only make us aspire to be better, but you also make it possible for us to do so. This toast is to you.
Marcia is with us as well.
Thank you for your leadership, Jennifer. Your warmth and enthusiasm were a really big part of why I wanted to join CCSRE. And as someone who has a bit of a behind the scenes view for HR and faculty affairs, I'm always blown away by your passion and enthusiasm, your incredible support for staff, for faculty, and for students. Thank you for your leadership, Jennifer. Your warmth and enthusiasm were a really big part of why I wanted to join CCSRE. And as someone who has a bit of a behind the scenes view for
Got a double here, but I think Allison is with us as well. Hi, Allison.
Hi, thank you. Oh, I hope, am I speaking over Marcia?
No, you're great. But you might want to mute your other video.
CCSRE. And as someone who has a bit of a behind the scenes view for
Got a double here, but I think Allison is with us.
This is why it's good to stick to the script. And then I don't feel embarrassed.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to see you all. This is so lovely. Thank you.
Great. But you might want to mute your other video.
CCSRE. And as someone who has a bit of a behind the scenes view for
Got a double here, but I think Allison is
This
with
is
us.
why it's good to stick to the script. And then I don't feel embarrassed. I'm so glad to see you all. This is so lovely. Thank you. Okay, Dorien, I know is mixing this. This is like
Exactly. This is
serious.
Allison, could you just mute your audio and then go for it? Mute. Yeah, there we go. All right, that works. I believe Heidi, I think Heidi is also on the line. Can we hear from Heidi?
Yes. Hi, Jennifer. You have been a breath of fresh air to the CCSRE. It has been a pleasure working with you. Thank you for your support and leadership. I will miss working with you very, very much. But I hope it won't be long before we get to work together again. Gracias.
Gracias para usted.
Perlita is with us as well.
Hi, Jennifer. I'm also going to miss working with you regularly, and I'm sure we'll be collaborating many ways, but you've shown such care and awareness of the things that the staff juggle at home, but also as people of color working on racial equity at this institution. And you were that way even before COVID. And I really admire that. I mean, you're brilliant. I really look up to you. And I just echo everything that everyone said. So, and it's exciting to be a part of this center doing such wonderful things, and the vision that you had and that you led and all the new things that you're implementing. It's just, I'm really proud to be a part of it under your leadership. Thank you.
Byron.
Yeah, Jennifer, you're the only director that I've known, so I don't really know how to go from here. It's just been so amazing, and yeah, everything about you. You're an advocate for staff, for myself, for queer Black academics of color. We owe you so much, and I'm just so incredibly grateful to have had this experience with you.
Maggie Anderson from our former chair of our board and member emerita, I believe, is with us.
I am, and sorry about the technical delay, but greetings to all of you from the little internet challenged Eastern Shore of Maryland. Jennifer, I hardly know what to say. And let me just say to those of you who are here, what a wonderful evening tonight. But Jennifer, you came into the leadership of CCSRE standing on very strong shoulders of those who had come before you, some of whom I'm looking at right now. But you also moved us to even greater heights. My goodness, one of the things you did was you even got faculty to develop a strategic plan. I mean, that was rather amazing.
I think Jose David Salivar had started on that, to be honest.
Always takes leadership from you two. So I loved our many conversations together, some of them in public, many of them not. And I just want to take this time to really wish you well in the years ahead, whatever that brings for you, and tell you how much I've appreciated our friendship and association through CCSRE. In solidarity forever.
Dr. Clay, one of our other original board members, is on the call with us as well.
Hi, Jennifer. I don't intend to miss you because I hope that we can continue our relationship in wherever you are and wherever I am. I have been on the board with all the previous directors, and you've been special. They've been great, but you've been special. And I've really enjoyed it, working with you. I remember when I first met you at a lecture about James Baldwin. I want to tell you, I just finished reading a James Baldwin book, so you certainly sort of got me back into it. But I want to especially acknowledge your leadership and foresight, both you and Daniel, in pushing the idea of a university-wide institute around race. It's been talked about it for a long time, but your timing in terms of pushing the idea lately has been crucial. And I really do think that you ought to take some credit for the current initiative to explore the creation of a university-wide institute on race. And lastly, I just want to personally thank you. I'm on your board, so I'm supposed to be advising you, but you've given me good advice and support. So I think it's sort of the other way around, and I really appreciate it.
Allison, can we try it again?
Yes, of course. Can you hear me?
There we go.
Okay, great. Hi, Jennifer. I absolutely adore you. You are just so fantastic. I am so appreciative for your visionary leadership, but also just for your goodness. You're just such an incredibly warm and wonderful person. Okay, great. And it's been such a pleasure to collaborate with you. I feel like you are my partner in crime from the first time when we thought about doing our Michelle Obama class. To the Hamilton class. We've had so much fun together. I'm so excited for future collaborations, and I'm so appreciative for your compassion and your commitment to AAAS, to CSRE, of course. You are a race woman in every sense of the word, and I'm so grateful and so honored to be your friend and your colleague. I'm so excited for future collaborations.
Well, Jennifer, I know there are many more people who can and want to and should and will say thank you to you. I know you're concerned that we're over time, but as you know, others have said, you deserve this appreciation in this moment. I just want to say it's been quite a ride over the past 5 years with you. I could go on, but I want to name a couple attributes I've really appreciated so much in working with you over the past years. First, your commitment. This hasn't just been a side project for you or a service obligation. You've really dedicated yourself and your life to this over the past 5 years of the center. That's so clear to all of us who've been on the staff, who's the faculty have worked with you. You've been a consistent presence and a leader for us all, involved in everything at the aspect from big research programs to making coffee so that everyone comes to a meeting happy. And, you know, and this commitment has really been transformative for the center. It's expanded the work that we've done, our visibility, and brought joy to so many of us. You know, you led us in winning major national grants. You've launched major new initiatives. You built partners with universities across the country. You should be proud of that. And that commitment is how that happens. But at the same time, Second, humility, which is why you're struggling to hear all of this right now. It's because you are the kind of leader that really sees this as communal. You always bring in quotes from others, and your respect for those that have shaped you, that have come before you, the mentors who you always seek counsel from. You listen. You brought the center in new directions, but you do that by listening first, whether it's those mentors, the board members, the staff, faculty, and our students. And finally, the care that you bring to all of this and all of this work. You care deeply about the work, but also about the people. You, as Samer said, and so many can attest to, you mentor new faculty, you fight for them, you work to get them hired, to get them tenured, to support them at every step of the way and welcome them into Stanford. Students adore you. The staff loves you. As Pralit and others said, you cared for us during challenging times. You advocate for us. You're always concerned about our well-being. Thank you, Jennifer, for your commitment to all of this and for all this work. You should be proud of your legacy at CCSRE. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to take the echoing and the layering of exactly an example of solidarity and the many voices as one. I am really, really overwhelmed. Thank you so much. I am speechless right now, especially without a script. But I think you all know that I will always be part of the CSRE community, that indeed I'm not going anywhere, I'm just going on leave. And Paula Moya, who has been such amazing member, will be fantastic. And we all continue to work together, whatever our roles are. I think we've seen that from Claude and Hazel and really every single person on the campus, and certainly Al. This is a collective effort, and also it's one that we keep doing even if we're not supposed to be in that role. Your being here tonight shows that. So thanks to everyone for your time and patience, your work, your love. I am echoing it back to you.
Well, we have some amazing upcoming events. One of the programs that Jennifer has spearheaded has been our Mellon Arts Practitioner Fellows. We'll be showcasing their work on June 11th. We hope you can join us. Commencement is coming soon, and there will be many more 25th anniversary events next academic year. We hope you will join us as we celebrate for the whole year. This really just kicks off our 25th anniversary. There's an event evaluation we'd love for you to fill out, and we'll have ways for you to share your memories and your experiences with CCSRE soon. We will be having an after party after this. If you want a chance to chat, to dance, DJ Dorien will be continuing to spin at afterwards. We hope you will join us. And thank you all for joining us tonight, for your ongoing support of CCSRE. And here's to solidarity.
Everyone.
That's right. And to DJ Dorien.